In the office bathed in morning sunlight, I was staring at my wedding ring. It gleamed under the light, embodying the hope for a new life that was about to begin. My name is Maria. I am 28 years old, and I work at the company my father manages, known as the president's daughter. Fearful of being labeled as a nepotism hire, I have been working desperately to build up my achievements since joining the company. Now, many employees recognize my capabilities. The person who has been my support is my husband, Raphael, who joined the company in the same year as me. Since he was assigned to my team, he has always been willing to offer advice and support. Raphael, diligent and competent, is highly regarded within the company, and even my father has given his full approval. Things moved swiftly, and soon we were meeting with his family. I met his stepsister Rena for the first time at a meeting after our engagement. Though still in her early 20s, she gave the impression of being beautiful and intelligent. However, there was something cold lurking in her eyes. "You are going to be my brother's wife," she said. Rena's words were polite, but there was a dismissive tone to them. I had heard that Raphael lost his father when he was young and had been living with his mother. There was no mention of Rena. I later learned that Rena was the child of Raphael's mother's second husband, who had suddenly appeared when Raphael was in high school. Why hadn't she been brought along when they remarried? The question crossed my mind, but I hesitated to ask for more details. The first signs of unease surfaced during the wedding preparations. "This dress seems like it would suit me too," said Rena with a meaningful smile as she touched my wedding dress in the fitting room. Her fingertips seemed almost as if they were trying to snatch the dress away. I felt a moment of fear. However, the ceremony went smoothly, and I had almost forgotten about this feeling. But about 2 months after the wedding, I began to feel uneasy again. It was an accumulation of trivial incidents. For example, while I was preparing dinner, Rena would suddenly visit. "Good evening, Raphael." "Hard day at work?" "Maria, may I join you in cooking?" she would ask in her polite manner, which at first seemed considerate. But the pattern that followed was always the same. "Oh, this seasoning is too strong for Raphael's taste," she would say. Or, "Raphael doesn't like vegetables cut this way," subtly but surely making changes to my cooking, acting as if she knew his preferences inside out. "I'm really happy having you around," Rena Raphael would say. "Maria, please listen to whatever Rena says." "She's had it tough," he would add. What exactly was tough for her, I didn't get to ask in detail at that time. However, there was a strange tension in Raphael's demeanor, as if he was harboring a secret. Rena also invariably found a way to insert herself into our plans for days off. If we were going to see a movie, she would cheerfully say, "A movie with Raphael sounds wonderful. I want to come too." If we went shopping, she would claim, "I know Raphael's taste the best," and proceed to pick out clothes she thought he would like. And Raphael accepted, even seemed delighted by, all of Rena's actions. At this point, it could be said that Raphael's behavior towards Rena had moved beyond adoration and into the realm of abnormal devotion. Just as I was starting to feel this discomfort, I learned a surprising truth during our monthly dinner with my mother-in-law. When Raphael left the table, my mother-in-law started a conversation that weighed heavily on me. "Actually, there's something I need to talk to you about regarding Rena," she began, hesitating for a moment before continuing with a resolved expression. "Rena is my daughter from my previous husband. We got together when Raphael was in high school." "What? That girl, her biological father. She suffered terrible treatment from him. When I learned about it, I brought her into our current family, and only then could she start living a normal life. When I brought Rena, Raphael's father had already passed away. But Raphael accepted her as his sister. That's why he still treats her so special." Hearing my mother-in-law's words, I felt a thaw in the discomfort I had been experiencing. Raphael's excessive protection and Rena's attachment might be influenced by their painful past. However, this also raised new questions. Why hadn't Raphael told me about this before we got married? A few days later, I decided to ask Raphael directly. When did Rena become your sister? I didn't miss the moment his expression tensed. Ah, did Mom tell you? Yes, it was when my father remarried my mom, he replied. No further explanation was given. Whenever I tried to ask more, he would change the subject or suddenly remember an errand and leave the table. He never touched on the story I had heard from his mother. Then, a decisive event occurred. It happened just as we were planning our honeymoon. Hey, since it's a special occasion, why don't we take Rena with us, Raphael suggested. I was astonished by his words. Thinking it was a joke, I lightly dismissed the suggestion while rejecting the proposal. Even though Raphael deeply cared for Rena, I never thought he would actually bring her on our honeymoon. However, tada, surprise. Rena is coming with us too. In the airport lobby, Rena suddenly appeared with Raphael, who was holding her suitcase, and I couldn't believe my eyes. What? What does this mean? So Rena is coming on the honeymoon too? I told you, she was feeling lonely and wanted to join. Raphael answered as if it had been previously agreed upon. Wait. I'm sure I said no. And before I could finish, Rena interrupted in a whining tone. Maria, am I not allowed? I want to be part of my brother's precious memories. At that moment, I felt the stares of those around us, as if it had all been calculated. Look, everyone is watching. Are you going to make Rena cry? Raphael's voice lowered. I stood frozen, my mind going blank. Is this really happening? To face such a scene on the morning of our honeymoon. But what about Rena's ticket? Here, give me your ticket. I paid for it, so I will decide how to use it. Just then, my phone rang. It was from my father. Seeing the call from my father, I made up my mind. I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. With an apology, I walked away from the scene. Raphael and Rena's voices echoed behind me, but I did not look back. I left the airport and immediately hailed a taxi. I headed back to my parents' house. While in the car, I returned the call from my father, and the response I received was unexpected. Maria, there's been a report from the company's accounting department. His voice was grave, signaling an event that would significantly alter my life. He said it was an important matter, so we decided to discuss it at the company the next day. The following day, upon arriving at work, my father called me into his office. Maria, there's something we need to talk about, he said, his expression somber. There are some concerning matters regarding Raphael's family. He placed documents on the desk, which showed substantial loans taken out under Raphael's name. These were borrowings using the company's welfare benefits system. A significant amount is being withdrawn every month. Besides, there are several other loans from consumer finance companies. My head went blank. Raphael was in debt, and it was a substantial amount. And there's another thing, my father continued, delivering even more shocking news. About Raphael's sister. Rena, there are some discrepancies in her background, he revealed. According to my father, upon investigating Rena's background, facts emerged that differed from what the stepmother had claimed. It's highly probable that she is not Raphael's stepsister. At least the family registry does not indicate that. What? Moreover, the claim that they met when Raphael was in high school. My father's words seemed to reach me in slow motion. According to police records, Rena was living under a completely different name until 2 years ago. A different name. My voice trembled. My father nodded quietly. Her real name is Lucille Torres. Until 3 years ago, she worked in a nightclub in Brooklyn. Then she disappeared suddenly, and when she reappeared, she was living as Raphael's sister. But my mother-in-law said, Raphael's mother is also involved in this matter. Some of the debts are in her name as well. My father's words made all the past events flash before my eyes like a revolving lantern. Raphael's abnormal attachment, the vague past spoken by the stepmother, Rena's unnatural behavior. Actually, my father paused, choosing his words carefully. Recently, Raphael has started to dip into the company's funds. At that moment, my phone showed a notification. The screen displayed an email with the subject honeymoon cancellation fee. My heart raced. Tentatively, I opened the email to find a cancellation of the trip booked in my name, along with a confirmation for a new reservation for 3 people. "What is Raphael doing?" I murmured. My father continued apologetically. "I checked with the police. It seems that Rena has a criminal record. She was part of a special fraud group, extorting money from several men. It can't be. And among her accomplices at that time was the name of Raphael's mother." Suddenly, everything from the moment I met Raphael started to connect. Why Raphael suddenly approached me, why he rushed to marry me, the president's daughter, and why he kept the existence of Rena hidden until the end. Dad. Is Raphael going to be the next president of the company? My father shook his head sadly. No. The next president is you. Once again, my phone rang. It was a message from Raphael. "Sorry, but could you front the money for the honeymoon, including Rena's part? I'll pay you back soon." My hand trembled as I held the phone. The reality my father had revealed and the casual tone of this message. The contrast made me chuckle bitterly. "Maria, should we consult the police?" my father asked. I looked up. "No. There's still something I need to see for myself." With a deep sigh, my father leaned back deeply in his chair. "Understood. But I won't allow any more harm to come. As of today, I'll limit Raphael's authority. The company will likely begin its own investigation too." I nodded quietly. Leaving the office, I immediately drove off. My destination was Brooklyn, to the nightclub where Rena had once worked. Under the bright sign, I stepped into the club without hesitation. "Welcome." "Oh, sorry, we're not open yet," a middle-aged woman, presumably the owner, called out to me. "Do you know a person named Rena?" I asked. At that, the woman's expression changed instantly. "You know about her?" she replied. I talked about my husband and how Rena became my sister-in-law. Then, 30 minutes later, in the VIP room, I was about to hear a shocking story from the nightclub's female owner. She was our #1 show dancer until 3 years ago, especially popular among the older business clientele, the female owner explained. She pulled out an old album. There was no doubt it was Rena in the photos. However, her hairstyle and clothes were completely different from now. More flashy and deliberately alluring. But you know, she had a partner. Someone to help her swindle money from the clients. No way. Yes, that person. Raphael's mother, a former dancer and her senior. She was the one who gave birth to Rena. I felt the blood drain from my ears. Was Raphael's mother a show dancer? The woman nodded slowly. The only sound was the melting ice in the glasses, slicing through the heavy silence. Raphael's mother, Helena, had been working here for over 20 years. She gave birth to Rena at 19 and struggled as an unmarried mother all those years, she said, with a sigh, reminiscing about the past. Then Raphael's father appeared. A serious company employee who treated the single mother Helena kindly. They got married, and Rena was sent to a facility. A facility? Yes. She wanted to start a new life. But it seemed they were always short on money. Her husband's salary was average for a business person. Helena continued to play the role of a good wife and mother in front of Raphael and others, secretly continuing her night job. As she tipped her glass, the female owner continued. After Raphael's father passed away, she became desperate. Couldn't make ends meet with just the survivor's pension. That's when she reunited with Rena after a long time. After leaving the facility, what happened to Rena? She followed in her mother's footsteps and started working here. But she did more than just dance. She began swindling wealthy men, essentially. It sounds bad when you say special fraud, but it was all about skillfully extracting money from rich men. The puzzle pieces in my mind were fitting together one by one. Helena and Rena were a skilled mother-daughter team. But then they suddenly stopped coming. The next thing I heard was that Rena had started living as Raphael's sister. Why suddenly? The police were getting stricter. They must have thought it was getting risky to continue. That's when they came up with this plan. The owner looked me straight in the eyes. They targeted your company's succession issue. The plan was to make Raphael president and then freely use the company's money. But Raphael was being deceived, wasn't he? Before I could finish, the owner quietly interrupted me. Raphael knew everything from the start. He knew the real Helena and that Rena had been a show dancer. Because, after a moment's hesitation, the owner delivered the final blow. Raphael used to come here often since he was in high school, helping his mother with her job. Since high school. My voice cracked. Yes. At first it was just to drop off and pick up his mother, but gradually he started helping with Helena's work. Having a young, clean-cut high school son was a convenient setup to gain the client's trust. Memories flashed through my mind like a whirlwind. Raphael's meticulous nature, his smart demeanor, how he managed his relationships. These weren't innate traits but skills honed in this world. Maria, you can see why you were targeted, right? Her words left me nodding silently. My family runs a company. I am an only daughter. Succession issues. My situation must have seemed like the perfect prey to them. But you know, the owner continued with a sigh. I think Raphael was really suffering too. It was as if he had been brainwashed by Helena. What do you mean? After his father died, Helena completely dominated Raphael. She threatened him with abandonment unless he obeyed her. Making him accept Rena as his sister was part of that too. The owner's hand trembled slightly as she set down her glass. It was all planned from the beginning. To insert Rena as Raphael's sister and get close to your company. Meanwhile, Helena and Rena were erasing evidence of their past misdeeds. Raphael and me, I stumbled over my words. Was there any real emotion in this marriage? That. You probably know best, the owner said with a gentle smile. One thing I can tell you is that Raphael started coming here often after meeting you. He would drink alone, saying he needed to talk. Talk? Yes, he would wonder what really is a family. At those words, tears welled up in my eyes. Once again, my phone vibrated. A new message from Raphael. Tonight, I need to talk. Can you come to my parents' house? I took a deep breath and pressed the intercom at Raphael's parents' house. It was just past 8 p.m. After hearing the story at the club, I had spent a long time in my car. Deciding whether to return home or come here was a decision made after much deliberation. Oh, Maria. The door was opened by Rena. Gone was her usual demure appearance, replaced now by flashy makeup and clothes. Apparently there was no need to hide anymore. We've been waiting for you. In the living room, Raphael and Helena were sitting. On the table, there were familiar documents. Details of the honeymoon cancellation fees and a copy of the new reservation. And even documents that could serve as evidence of misappropriation from the company. Sit down. Raphael's voice sounded hollow. Don't worry about the money. I will definitely pay it back. Pay back? How? At my question, Raphael momentarily averted his eyes. Have you already dipped into the company's money? At those words, Raphael looked up. Did you know? Yes, I heard it from my father. But that's not all. I was just at Club Angel until recently. For a moment, the air in the room froze. I see. Surprisingly, Raphael slumped his shoulders in resignation. Then, there's no need to talk anymore. No, that's not it. I interrupted firmly. I want to hear it from you. Everything. Raphael sighed deeply. Beside him, Helena clicked her tongue in displeasure. Talking won't change anything. You'll just go to the police anyway. Helena. I cut off my mother-in-law's words and stared straight at Raphael. What I'm asking for is your true feelings. Was there any truth in our marriage at all? Truth. Raphael gave a bitter smile. At first I just did as my mother told me. But, Raphael, Helena raised her voice sharply. However, for the first time, Raphael ignored his mother's interruption. But as I spent time with you, I started to wonder what a real family is. Seeing you live your life so earnestly every day made me feel ashamed of my own. Brother, what about our promise? This time, Rena interjected. Her voice lacked any trace of her previous demure act. Enough about promises, Raphael said wearily. Enough from both Mom and Rena. It was then. Helena suddenly stood up and grabbed the documents on the table. This is the evidence, right? Of the misappropriation of funds from the company. What are you planning to do? As I braced myself, Helena held the documents to her chest with a cold smile. It's simple. If I take these to the police, Raphael's life is over. But if you quietly accept this honeymoon situation... Mom, stop it, Raphael shouted. Why should I stop? I've done all this for you. Helena's voice trembled. I did it. For your future. To marry you off to this girl and take over the company. You just imposed what you wanted on me. Raphael's words twisted his mother's face. What did you say? Mom, you just forced your unfulfilled dreams on me. Raphael's voice was calm but firm. Marrying rich people and taking over a company. Those were all your dreams. If you had married someone other than Dad, maybe by now, you've been manipulating me thinking that, haven't you? No, I did it for you. Really for me? And pushing Rena on me as my sister. At those words, Rena stiffened. Brother, stop it. Let's end this charade. Raphael looked straight at Rena. Didn't you also not want to do any of this? A flicker of doubt appeared in Rena's eyes. Following Mom's orders, continuing as a show dancer, engaging in almost fraudulent activities. Was this the life you really wanted? Shut up, Helena screamed, holding the documents aloft. Raphael's life depends on me. You wouldn't want this to go to the police, would you, young lady? I quietly stood up. Then you should take them. What? Those documents are meaningless now. I took out my smartphone. I showed her the screen where a recording app was running. I've recorded everything we've talked about. And the sound of the front door opening echoed. Sorry to keep you waiting. My father appeared, accompanied by a lawyer and police officers. A year has passed since then. Raphael received a prison sentence for his involvement in the fraud. However, because he admitted to all the charges and pledged to apologize and repay the victims, his sentence was relatively short. Helena received a heavier sentence. Further accusations from past victims followed, and the egregiousness of her schemes was brought to light. And then there was Rena. She made an unexpected choice. I think I want to live honestly, she said, tearfully, just before being arrested. Just like Raphael said, this isn't the life I wanted. Ultimately, she chose to cooperate with the investigation as a witness. She is now in a rehabilitation facility, taking her first steps towards a new life. I ended up inheriting the company. Maybe it was meant to be from the start, I murmur softly, looking out of the office window. My father, still acting as the chairman, continues to support me. Sometimes he chuckles and says, in the end, it turned out to be a test of your capacity. Yes, this whole ordeal was a significant trial for me and an opportunity for growth. During a visit, Raphael, looking worn, said, I'm truly sorry. But I just want to say one last thing. The days I spent with you were my first real happiness. I quietly accepted his words. Raphael, you too should have a chance to grasp true happiness. Next time, live by your own will, not manipulated by anyone else. Outside the window, the wind signals a new season. I take a deep breath. No matter what challenges lie ahead, I will not hesitate. Choosing my own life is the biggest lesson I've taken from this experience.